Good morning and welcome. Another wonderful day. This Tuesday, the 27th of June 2017. In my panel this morning, as we look at what's making headlines in the papers, Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, Member of Parliament for Bishugu. Mheshimiwa, good morning and welcome.
Morning, thank you.
Chris Omalo, Member of Parliament for Kiminini. Mheshimiwa Amata Wangari, member of the Senate and candidate for Jubilee for the parliamentary seat in Gilgil. Got that right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor Nairobi. Always a pleasure having you on the set as we look at what's making headlines this morning. A quick glance at the papers. We start with the Business Daily. Confusion as Ardhi House rejects land lease renewals. Now, apparently officials insist that they can't process documents, even as Land Secretary Kamenyi says a moratorium has been lifted. At the same time, members of parliament want banks to pursue debtors before pursuing guarantors. This is in view of the fact that more often than not, commercial banks have been forced to pursue forced to pursue guarantors rather than the principal borrowers in cases of default with the loan repayments. The Daily Nation, top of the pages, Uhuru pledges more jobs and cash for schools. And to fight rampant graft and end wastage, Jubilee leader also promises to create a general services agency that will take charge of procuring goods and services. More about the manifesto, which will be forming the basis of our review this morning, can be found on pages 2, 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation. On the side is a look back at what Jubilee promised in 2013 and what they have achieved so far. They promised transformational leadership, a safer Kenya, empowering the youth, food security for Kenyans, social justice, a healthy Kenya, water and electricity. Together with that, also on the front page of the Daily Nation, doctors are now urging that the nurses' strike, which is on its 22nd day today, be ended as soon as possible in order to bring back the health sector back to normalcy. Photos on the launch of the Jubilee manifesto can be found on page 2. Page 3 has photos about celebration of the Eid ul-Fitr Day. On page 4, rowdy youth disrupt Raila rally over his call for 6-piece voting. Now, the National Super Alliance flag bearer Raila Odinga yesterday took the opposition campaign to his Siaya backyard in a series of rallies. In one of the rallies at a place called Aram in Rarieda constituency, there was confrontation between two groups of youth, one that was agitating for the 6-piece system of voting and one that was calling on people to elect leaders of their choice regardless of which party affiliation they belong to. Page 5 of the Daily Nation, shock as Kalonzo disowns Ngilu. Wiper leader says former CS should have dissolved her NAC party to bolster Kamba unity drive. We'll be getting more about that. Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke is here. Page 6 has a very beautiful lady, a photo of the Jubilee ladies, and one of them is Mata. This is a nice outfit you're having here.
Thank you.
It looks like the Ugandan flag, though.
Go away. That looks very nice.
Well, I mean, it's there.
Jubilee.
Quite interesting. Very nice, elegant. These are pictorials from the launch of the Jubilee Manifesto. Page 8 of the Daily Nation, 27 hearts as a new bridge comes tumbling down. That is the Sigiri Bridge that has been making headlines all over in the papers and in the news. Remember, the president was there about 2 weeks ago when he went to inspect the construction of this bridge that is said to be costing about 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. Now, page 14 has the opinion column, and it says, as far as graft is concerned, leaders must reject these looters. It's talking about the people who hang around leaders and apparently have elements of looting of public coffers around their necks. The Star says Uhuru still ahead of Raila in polls. Star survey, which they now conduct every month, shows that Uhuru still leads by 9 points ahead of opposition since May. The undecided now stand at 12%. The Standard, very quickly before I give a chance to my guest this morning to tell us their opinion about the various things. Of course, it's featuring prominently the Jubilee Manifesto, Uhuru's 10-point promise, and it's aptly covered on pages 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, which also has a comparative analysis of what Jubilee promised in 2013, what they have hit on target and what they have missed as far as achieving their manifesto is concerned. Of course, there is a blame game about the collapse of the bridge in Sigiri. 1.2 billion bridge collapses, and of course the blame game starts now. Also on the Standard, the Nubian community hold prayer for a special rebirth of a nation, and they laud the move to issue them with the title deeds for the 288 acres of land that has been hived off Kibra military reserve that was set aside ages ago. That's just about what we have in the papers today, and so I would wish to at this point invite Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua.
Yes, sir.
Jubilee launched their manifesto.
Yes, we did, yes.
It's acts on the pillars of social justice and empowerment. There is the issue of security, and of course there is the issue of productivity, creating more job opportunities for the youth. But one thing is glaring: was it strategic or was it a mishit? They did not give an economic development target.
One thing is that first of all, I'd like to greet viewers during this morning show. This morning show, I think the presentation of Jubilee manifesto yesterday to me was good, and you see the manifesto covers things not in finer details, but giving the highlights. That's what we got yesterday. For you to get the real context, the real gist of the manifesto, you have to read word for word, line for line. But I think whatever was given, to me, was in reference to economic growth. For example, for you to grow a country, you must have an educated population. There was much emphasis on education. For example, free access to education up to Form 4 level. There was also heavy emphasis on capitation. And also we are putting another 9 billion shillings for the free education system. There is a mention and a serious emphasis on access to loans to TVET students, which was never before. We had a lot of emphasis on infrastructure. You have on health and everything else, and also collaboration between county and national governments to achieve great goals. So all that combined adds up to growth. Because those are like the dependent variables, with the dependent one being the growth aspect of the whole thing. So the whole thing is that the 10-point Jubilee manifesto, the 10 points were all geared towards economic growth. One thing is clear is that even the last 4 years, the global economic growth average has been less than 2%. In Kenya, there's been about 5%. So it means that we're in the right trajectory.
Were they being cautious not to give figures and just leave it blanket, not say during our second term in leadership we will grow the economy of the country by this %? Were they being cautious?
I think first of all, let me also say a big hi to the viewers. I've not been here for quite some time. As you know,
indeed haven't.
I've been on the campaign trail. And
oh, you are not in Australia.
And also say hi to my people in Gilgil and Nakuru. But I was there, as you can see, of course, in the event of yesterday night of launching the manifesto. First of all, you cannot fit everything into a 2-hour program. That one, I think we need to agree that you couldn't put every detail in a 2-hour program. But we also must note, Charles, that when we are launching the manifesto for Jubilee, we are also continuing. We are doing a self-audit and we are continuing. We are not like people who have not been in government at all.
That's why you call it continuing the transformation.
It is a continuous process because we've been in government. We have done this much. We want to be here. Have we achieved everything? I say, of course not. In fact, even the president said exactly that yesterday, that no one is 100% and there's no government that will do 100%. And that is being responsive and being truthful to the electorate. And I think moving forward, if you saw how it was structured yesterday, even the cabinet secretaries were actually at the pillars of making sure they articulate what we have done as a government. If you recall where we've come from, even in terms of placing at the global geopolitical centers, you were coming from a place of where global superpowers like the US only said would have essential contact, just essential. But we have grown as a country to be able to gain trust internationally and globally, to even be placed and host events and summits that of international standards. And if you remember, even in terms of security, when we came into government and into power, we had very serious security issues. We in fact, in Parliament, the Jubilee Brigade are the ones who actually led to even the ouster of the Olelenkus, the overhaul of the security organs, but we have also improved on that. And I think if you look at what we broke down yesterday, it is a continuous process. We say, what have we done in health? What have we done in education? What have we done in maternal health? What have we done in terms of even legislation? If you look at even what was articulated and what legislative agenda that has supported this government, some of the major laws, like even the Companies Act, are also in that program. But I think you cannot put everything in a 2-hour program. But if you look into the details and you'll be able to go to delve into them, you'll see what it means exactly in terms of figures. When we say 466 mothers or children were dying per 1,000 live births, and now we have reduced that to almost 300.
Those are figures.
That is progress, and it was in there. When we say we are in the digital program, we have over 900 gadgets out there. When we say there is no government that has employed more teachers, we have employed 16,000 teachers. Is there still a shortage of teachers? Of course, yes. But have we employed 16,000 teachers? Yes, and that is a big number. So I think if you look at it holistically, you'll be able to get those figures right in there.
Jonathan, something was outstanding yesterday, the presence of cabinet secretaries. Of course, there is no law that prohibits them from getting into politics. And although people have been making noise that they shouldn't be involved, the law is very clear that cabinet secretaries, except cabinet secretaries, no state officer is supposed to engage in politics. That is what the law says.
No,
but one thing was glaring yesterday. The fact that cabinet secretaries were pushing this agenda. Were they given the mandate by the people?
I'm not sure which law you are talking about, Charles, but the Public Officers and Ethics Act is very clear that no public officer, and this is in section 16, no public officer shall support or oppose any political party. Section 67, you will not use any government resources or public resources for campaigns to support or oppose any political party. That the law is there. Yeah. Now maybe we can debate: is a cabinet secretary a public officer or not? I say they are. Yeah.
Is a state officer.
Well, it says a public officer. So you can now begin to debate on what's a public officer. Are they being paid by public funds? Do they serve the public? So I think they are public officers. So they should follow the Public Officers and Ethics Act because it's there, it's law. So for them to be supporting a political party is against the law.
But they were very clear, the government, they didn't refer to Jubilee. My question is, are they mandated by the public to push a manifesto?
What happened yesterday was a Jubilee launch. As far as I'm briefed, Jubilee is a political party. So it's politics.
Very thin line, Mheshimiwa Chris Wamalwa. You remember the reference to the president was our party leader, our party leader. But when it came to the cabinet secretaries, it was clear, not our members, our cabinet secretary.
I want to say that first and foremost, it was very wrong for the cabinet secretaries to be in that particular forum, because this was a campaign forum. You are developing a manifesto, you're listening to the people. A manifesto is a promise, and voters will base that promise. They're going to look at it objectively so that they can be able to vote for you. So it's like a campaign tool. So it was very, very wrong, in line with the Public Officers Ethics Act, for the cabinet secretaries to have been allowed to come and articulate issues as far as the aspect of Jubilee is concerned. Yesterday it was not government. Manifesto is based on a political party, and it only comes at the electioneering period. But having said that, I want to say that that manifesto was, a manifesto is something you come out after you've done a situation analysis, and it must be based on the sector. That manifesto was more of a public relations, and it lacked what is on the ground. Right now, anybody launching a manifesto, you must look at the critical problems that are on the ground. First, the economy is top. The cost of living. The cost of living has a relationship with the economy. When you look at the 10 point, you don't see anything touching on the cost of living. And the cost of living is attached to the public debt. This is something which is already beyond 50% of the GDP. It is actually a crisis. We didn't see anywhere in the Jubilee manifesto touching on the cost of living. Secondly, when you look at the at the issue of transformational leadership. This is what they had done some times back in 2013. What the Jubilee should have done, before even coming up with a manifesto, they should have given Kenyans a scorecard. This is what we promised, and this is what we have done. They have failed. It was more of a public relations. In terms of accountability, look at the Sigiri Bridge. This is something our stories on, it was in the manifesto, but when it collapsed, the president had deleted from there. Should have told us something. Let me justify. When you look at the social media, the issue of SGR was highlighted there. Without looking at the critical things of the SGR. The SGR was there, yes, but at what cost? Corruption has been an issue as far as SGR is concerned. Look at the Sigiri Bridge. The president was just the other day launching. I'm told it was been mentioned somewhere in the manifesto, but having collapsed, this is a true indicator of the corruption.
I wonder how
let me mention. Let me finish. When Senator Ongare comes here and say, at on a 2 hour, it's like in academia when you have a thesis. There's something called an abstract. An abstract is about 5% or so of the entire thesis, and it must touch on the highlights. When it comes to the corporates, you know, they call it executive summary. Your CEO might not have a chance to go through that report, but you must do an executive summary.
Give a picture.
Absolutely. So Jubilee, whatever they give, we can say an abstract or an executive summary. They must highlight on the critical things. And what we're asking is this: things like the land issues. We didn't see anything about these land issues. The food crisis that we are having on the food security. They collapsed Galana Gulana. You know what has happened in Galana Gulana? We've not seen this country being food secure. So the issues of corruption, nothing.
Talking of promises and
the scorecard. More importantly, they should have given us a scorecard because they were given an opportunity to serve the government. Unlike NASA, we were not in power. We can come straight and say this is our manifesto. But for them, you cannot run away from a scorecard. You should have told us what we promised in 2013 is this had been in power. For instance, when you talk about Health Kenya, look at the nurses. You can't have a health nation and yet the nurses are on strike.
Fair enough, you've made your point. Mheshimiwa Wangari, the clarion call was continuing the transformation of Kenya together. Do you think, you had mentioned earlier that of course not everything was achieved, but do you think it would have been important that they give a scorecard? We promised this, we have achieved this, now we are telling you how we are going to. Look at the standard. I think Jubilee hits and misses.
If you watched yesterday night, because I was in that program throughout, and I want to implore on Malo, I don't even think he watched it, because he's relying on
it.
Of course
I watched it.
And one thing I can tell him, you know, this Sigiri Bridge, and I know, you know, when guys have no manifesto of their own, it will become their manifesto, and I expected that to happen. But
no, they are launching their manifesto.
They have their own chance today. But I'll tell you, what you're seeing on the newspapers is not all that was in the program yesterday. And I want to say, because you also don't just bash without going to the details. What happened yesterday was exactly what Wamalo is talking about, a scorecard. That we are saying in maternal health, we have reduced the death of children up to this point. In education sector, we have done this much. We are transiting from this percentage to this percentage to secondary school, and we plan to have a full transition by doing this and this. And
so how then do you explain the absence, Jogu Barua and Mata? How then do you explain the absence of Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri? Is it because of what the standard says misses most parts of the country?
By the way,
bandits and terrorists.
By the way, more cabinet secretaries would have spoken. But of course there was no enough time. If you remember in this program, in fact the DP said for the interest of time, because also we could not do it for the whole night. So some of them were represented because we could not have every cabinet secretary speaking. But I will tell you, in terms of transformation, and if you read that document, because it's a major document, it's not just a few things you see here, you will see different areas of collaboration of even the county governments in terms of health. Have we said there have been no hitches? There have been hitches. That is why the nurses are still on strike. But we also have to put it squarely on where it lies. And Wamalo is a legislator.
The president actually
knows exactly.
The president actually saying, sorry, we have devolved all the functions,
and the money,
and the money that is needed.
And the money
that is needed.
So when we say council of governors are the ones responsible for employment of nurses, and don't tell us it is led by a Jubilee governor. It's not. It is in fact no. Who is supposed to be solely responsible to respond? But
SRC, that is a national body.
Don't interrupt. The sole responsibility is the council of governors to be able to respond to that problem. But is it a problem? I think if there is a government that has been responsive, even to a Twitter hashtag, has been the Jubilee government. In fact, if you watched yesterday night, even the issue of Unga, it was raised through the media, through Twitter, because guys were asking, tell us, Mr. President, what are you going to do to sustain food security? And it was a whole response that was given on that in terms of how do we plan to secure the country. Have we done it before? For the last 3 years, yes, the country has been food secure, but for the last 1 year, there has been a problem, not just in Kenya, even regionally, in terms of drought. And have we responded? Of course, yes. Have we responded adequately? I say yes.
That's one I need you to decide. Yes. I'll come back to you, Jonathan, in a minute, because I need you to get to us to what the president was quite unequivocal about. They have given out functions to counties and they have given out the money. I'll come back to you. But before then, Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, do you think we should have seen security more prominent yesterday?
I think it could have been good if there was time to...
Because if we have infrastructure, we have job opportunities, we have ICT, we need an umbrella of security for this to be successful.
Yeah, but I think it could have been good if there was a time to discuss security issues. But as Mother is saying clearly, the thing was a 2-hour presentation. You could not have put everything at the same time. What you know is that every Kenyan, either in the opposition or in the Jubilee government, Jubilee side of the divide, knows that we had a threat, security threat for some time, and the issue has been addressed to a large extent. So this is not an issue you can take a partisan position on it. So the other issue of what Chris is raising is that issues of Sigiri Bridge and so forth. I think now we are going to sideshows. Because first of all, despite that the president was there to launch the bridge, or to inspect the bridge, but yes, the bridge collapsed, but it collapsed at the hands of the contractor. So it is not a government loss; it is actually a responsibility of the contractor. It is not the responsibility of the Jubilee. Anybody, any government, once you contract, you don't take responsibility until the thing has been handed over to you. On the issue of the Kuraro Gorangarana project, it was clear that for the last 2-3 years, we have been running a 10,000-acre trial farm, which has been proven successful. Now we are at about 500,000 acres. Now, and I think, just a minute, and I think there was a projection given that we are moving to 900,000 acres, then we end up 1.2 million acres, which is beyond what was promised of 1 million acres. And then it was clearly saying that when this thing is actually implemented, we shall be getting 30 bags of maize per day, which is going to to fill a very big gap in terms of food.
30,000
bags per day. Yeah. So I think the figures are there.
I'm interested in a point you've mentioned before I hand over to you.
Before you ask me
that the Sigiri Bridge collapsed in the hands of
the contractor. Yes.
Hardly a week after the president had gone to inspect it. Does it mean the government agencies mandated with ensuring prudent construction are not keen on this?
I don't think so, because you see, I'm not an engineer myself, but you see, for something like this with concrete, there must be a process of curing and so forth. Yeah. There is no way the government can manage even the curing process. If there was a mix imbalance of the ingredients, that is up to the contractor. But as far as we are concerned now, Jubilee government is not responsible for whatever happens.
So is it a challenge of the competence of the contractor?
I think Chris is very agitated. I don't know why. It is not that we are yet to. You see what Musonik did yesterday. He sent a team of engineers to investigate. Let us not speculate. Okay. It happens. But before I finish, I want to say that Chris is very eloquent when he's saying and telling us what should have been that manifesto. To me, it surprises me. Looks like he's a Jubilee insider. So, I mean, we need to be fair to Jonathan, and so Chris, it could be a Jubilee more here.
I want to interject. It is a responsibility of any government in terms of monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the scope and the budget and the schedule of the project is on course.
Yes.
So if Jubilee was sleeping on the job to come and inspect at the tail end, where the quality aspect has been compromised, this security breach is an indicator showing that the Jubilee projects are substandard. And now it goes to the SGR. Who knows? Maybe SGR will collapse tomorrow. This is an indicator to show how substandard it is, how the level of corruption has been to compromise in terms of quality. Lastly, when you come and say you didn't have time at 2 hours, when it comes to highlighting, you highlight the critical issues. I just gave a scenario in academia. We're doing a thesis. There's something called an abstract. An abstract, you must highlight the key findings, the methodologies and all that. When it comes to the corporate, when you're doing a report, the CEO, there's something called an executive summary.
It should have
absolutely. So in this case, we expect security to have been on the front line.
Fair enough.
That is very critical for any
Fair enough. Jonathan, before we take a break, your domain was mentioned very unequivocally.
And the two-third gender.
The national government says it has given enough money as far as the roles that were given to county governments is concerned.
Yeah, let me just, before I comment on that, let me just also talk on the bigger picture. Yeah. Because my domain is not just in the counties. Charles, you know, the beauty about life is having a track record. Yeah. Even before Jubilee is able to tell us what it is they're going to do in the next 5 years, you have to look at their track record in the last 5 years. My friend Mheshimiwa Chris is calling it a scorecard. Indeed it is. You know, they promised us an electric train in the manifesto of 2013. We got a locomotive. They promised our children laptops. They got tablets. They promised us 7 to 10% economic growth. We are just now hitting 5. So even before we get now to 2017-2022, our colleagues here, Senator Martha and Mheshimiwa Barua, need to tell us, why should we even believe these 10 points if the other ones were not done? When we come to devolving of functions, water is a devolved function.
Yes.
What business has the Jubilee government been in doing dams and doing the irrigation of this Galana?
Galana.
Yeah,
Kenya, you should know those
Galana. Okay, what business? So that means that's not devolved, right? When it comes to healthcare, we saw Jubilee go buy containers that were costing 1 million, and they charge the Kenyan people 10 million shillings. 1 billion shillings of containers. We've not even seen one in Nairobi. What business were they doing in healthcare and buying machines for hospitals that don't even need those machines because they're in remote areas that don't even have infrastructure for those machines? So how can the president come and say that he has devolved everything and send the money while they are doing county functions blatantly? Look at something as simple. I quoted for you the law on the Public Officers Act. That's been ignored. Look at something as simple as the gender rule. I mean, a court has even ruled, although he suspended the judgment, that the cabinet that the president is running today is illegal. It doesn't meet the 2/3 gender rule. Your own cabinet. So Charles, if your foundation is compromised, the entire building will come down.
Fair enough. We'll be taking a short commercial break. When we come back, the question is, a manifesto is a document that should be communicating to you, the common mwananchi, as far as the objectives of a leadership that seeks your mandate is concerned. We'll be asking, is the common mwananchi well captured or taken care of in this manifesto that was released yesterday? Remember, the standard says Jubilee hits and misses, national cohesion, the hits and the misses. There is keeping Kenya safe, there's the issue of trade and foreign affairs, education, raising standards, arts, sports and culture, healthcare, youth empowerment, social protection, economy, women empowerment and equal share. We also not forget to talk about the president's statement to fight rampant graft and end wastage. The Jubilee leadership promises to create a general service agency that will take care of procurement of goods and services. After this short commercial break.